How does someone politely end a conversation with a person who won't stop talking? Worst case I've ever had. I basically gave every verbal cue I knew of, eventually stood up, then stood in the doorway, then backed out of the doorway, and this dude was still talking. In the end I just said I'll be back and closed the door on him mid-sentence. My dad's like this. When I was a teenager he'd follow me to every room of the house talking. If I went to the bathroom he'd stand outside and continue talking to me through the door. If I had to leave, like to go to school, I would literally leave the house and he'd stand in the doorway and continue talking as I walk down the path and out of sight. He still does this when I go back home to visit. It wouldn't be so bad if he'd actually be willing to have a conversation. But he only talks at you. If you try and say anything, he just talks over you, as if you haven't said a thing. Edited to add. So far in the replies my dad has been armchair diagnosed with autism, bipolar disorder, hypomanic disorder, narcissistic personality disorder and goodness knows what else. He doesn't have a mental illness. He talks a lot. It's just a quirk and I wouldn't have him any other way. If I could also stop being accused of not loving him, appreciating him and being told I'll miss him when he's dead, that'd be grand. I really don't understand people who just talk at you. It drives me crazy. My son is like this. I don't know how to get him to stop. It sends me to a bad place. Same except it's my mom. Not sure how old your son is, but I know when I was younger I could easily get excited about something and talk my parents' ear off without ever thinking if they cared or trying to actually engage in a conversation with them. I grew out of it. You have hope. Mental health worker here. I see patients every day who will talk forever if you don't stop them. You simply have to interrupt and redirect, or end the conversation. I always politely tell them, let me stop you there or let me jump in there. Sometimes you have to be abrupt or else you will be held hostage by the one-sided conversation. I know it's dubious to ask advice over Reddit, but is this a sign of declining mental health? I know a handful of people who are very far along in life and I could tell them I have to go because my house is burning down and they have to tell me 2 more stories about how Margaret's house burned down in '65 and she made the best soup and blah blah blah. Not always. Those who are manic or who have ADHD can talk excessively, or sometimes it's just an anxious response. Some people just talk a lot. I have a good friend who is very down to earth and, as far as I've always been aware, mentally stable, but the girl can talk. Like my eyes will be glazing over and she will just keep talking. I just think she has so much to say she can't keep it in. Her whole family is the same way. Person with ADHD chiming in here that it is a very real problem for us. Rambling and tangents are almost impossible to avoid in conversation unless you've rehearsed it in your head first. Yup, seconding. If you know a person has ADHD and they're self-aware enough, you can come right out and tell them to stop taking. I'd rather someone tell me to shut up and walk away still liking me than let me ramble and, eventually, walk away thinking I'm an ass or a bore. Absolutely. One of my big problems is retelling stories. I have a pretty terrible memory so I won't remember if I tell someone a story. I hate it when people let me finish retelling a story and then let me know I already told them. Like please. Don't let me waste your time with a story you've already heard. Just say something like oh yeah, you told me this thing happened right? And my feelings will not be hurt at all. I'm an Uber driver. I was once summoned to pick up 2 people for just this reason. They had me drive 4 blocks .25 miles, 1.5 minutes to another bar just to get out of a conversation with someone. Minimum fare, $3.75, and $10 tip on the app. I'm an Uber driver. I was once summoned to pick up 2 people for just this reason. They had me drive 4 blocks .25 miles, 1.5 minutes to another bar just to get out of a conversation with someone. Minimum fare, $3.75, and $10 tip on the app. On the flip side of that, there's a small subset of Uber drivers that seem to do it because it allows them to get a captive audience for conversation and just won't shut the frick up for an entire ride. It's one of the few things that'll cause me to knock a star or 2 off of their rating. You're my Uber driver, We're unlikely to ever meet again, but you do know where I live and that I'm not home tonight. You don't need to know how many kids I have or how I met my wife. I've been saying for years that Uber/Lyft need to add a quiet mode option for when you don't feel like engaging in conversation with the driver. I've had some friendly drivers where I didn't mind the conversation, but I've also had a few that I rated lower because they wouldn't shut the frick up. Most recently I was taking an Uber to LAX airport and this lady was ranting about punishing her kid because he ate the entire pack of bologna at home, leaving none for his sister. Literally for an entire hour I had to listen about this frickin' bologna drama. It was unbearable. You're in luck. They rolled out a quiet mode a few months ago as part of Uber Comfort, which then costs a 30-50% premium over an UberX ride. Why UberX cars don't need to be comfortable or have drivers that you can't request will shut the hell up is beyond me. Here in Toronto, you can pay for the new comfort mode that lets you choose if you want the driver to talk or not, alongside AC temperature. Although, the driver I got looked at those preferences and continued talking. I have to return some videotapes. I have an 8:30 res at Dorsia. Try getting a reservation at Dorsia now you fricking stupid bastard. But Blockbuster closed years ago. Continues talking. Oh no, Blockbuster didn't have these videotapes winks. Wait, then how did you get them? Continues talking. I don't mean to interrupt but it's got to be done. So just do it. They need a break anyway. This is the right answer. You simply need to interrupt them. Apologize for doing so and let them know you need to do something else. Which is still a little awkward, because I don't actually have something else to do. I just want to do nothing without having to listen to them. Just because you don't have other plans for your time, does not mean other people are entitled to have your time. This is really important for everyone to understand. I hate to disturb you, of course. He expressed he begged for forgiveness and stared at him stressed. I hate to disturb you, he said to him pained. It's just that you won't freaking stop, he explained. I read one of those mildly interesting newspaper features recently with an etiquette expert. Their advice was rather than make an excuse, you should be more direct that you are ending the conversation and say something like I've really enjoyed talking with you. I'm going to circulate around the room now as it's less likely to create an expectation you might come back. It does work too. I wish I had said this at a trade show. A retired person was going on and on about things he did back in his day. It was slow, so I didn't mind at first. But after about 20 minutes, I ran out of ways to act interested. So I said, "Excuse me, I need to get some water," which had the virtue of being true. However, when I turned around at the water station, he had followed me over and picked up without missing a beat. So I said, "Excuse me, I need to get some water." You didn't follow up with "to drown you with" so he would get the hint. I'm going to circulate around the room now. Even better if A. You're in a park. B. You're trapped in your cubicle at work. C. You're beginning hospice and the nurse is going over the care plan. B. You're trapped in your cubicle at work. To handle this situation at work, always have an empty cup on your desk. Whenever the talker won't leave you alone, stand up and grab your cup so they can see it. If they still haven't taken the hint after a minute or so, politely excuse yourself for a cup of water. If you have something, like leaving your desk for water, to do, you can give yourself an excuse to walk away from the conversation. If they follow you to get water, go to the bathroom. The secret is to be the one who dictates the end of the conversation. Having a natural reason to end the conversation while physically removing yourself from the area is pretty effective and won't usually upset the other person. At the urinal, so as I was saying, we have a great line that we use in Ireland. I haven't heard it used abroad, but it could well be used all over for all I know. The person is rabbiting on and is showing no sign of stopping. You clearly and firmly say, "I'll let you go." Then with the confidence of a person doing them a favor, you turn on your heel and stride away. This has the effect of making them think you are the one wanting to avoid wasting their time. If they figure it out, they can't call you out on it, because to do so would be to admit, at least to themselves, that they are wasting your time. In fact, most people never allow themselves to think it might be them who is holding you up, so they accept the offer of your leaving in order for them to get on with their important work. In general, if someone says I'll let you go to me, rare, but it has happened, I smile and say bye and end the conversation. It is a social convention and I abide by it. They want out. No ego. Let them go and the best of luck to them. People appreciate that, I imagine. We have something like that in Germany that translates to I don't want to keep you any longer. The problem with that is 9 times out of 10 the people talking on and on at you will say, oh, I have plenty of time, and you're still screwed. In my experience, you have to be firm and walk off. It's all about confidence in the move. That's true. Maybe say it and quickly run away before they have a chance to reply. Don't run. Stride. I used to work on a team with a guy who had Asperger's and some related issues processing social cues. He would get started on a subject and just talk at people for 30 minutes plus without pausing for breath. He didn't get the cues that people were losing interest and would continue indefinitely unless you directly interrupted and told him to stop. He wouldn't be offended and generally appreciated being told he should have stopped. It was almost a rite of passage in the office to endure an extended one-way lecture about his choice of bathroom tiles or the benefits of all-weather road tires over winter tires, etc. I have mild Asperger's and I experience both ends of this, as extroverts tend to adopt me, which I like. The cues are basically another language which we don't pick up as easily as allistic people. I can sometimes spot the micro expressions, but it doesn't mean I know what to do with them. So would rather be told to finish up than know I'm making someone feel bored, uncomfortable and not know what to do with it. I have a dear extrovert friend at uni who will talk the hind legs off a donkey. Last time we met I tried to end the conversation with an arm stretch and I'd better go work on my sketchbook. To which he replied, oh, can I see your sketchbook? There went another half hour. Her son handles situations like this with, I'm not being funny mum, but can you go now? So I understand the issues with social cues being difficult to spot, but what about adopting as a truism that if you're talking with someone and they don't say a word in a 2-3 minute period, you should probably just pause, ask them if they have anything to say, or ask if they're still interested in the topic, conversation, and then continue based on their response? If you talk at length and the other person never gets a word in almost 100% of cases, the other person is either bored and wants to leave or would like to say something, but you're not allowing them to. Yeah, I use mental timers for everything. Eye contact, speaking, responding to messages, you name it. It's close enough to normal that people tell me I am very sociable. But I often lock up in response to mixed cues and have to directly ask what is happening. I also have Asperger's and I don't think I could have said it better. Though somehow I've learned how to interpret a lot of those subtle social cues and it has helped in my social life quite a bit. But I'm not perfect and never will be. At this point it's not a hindrance to me, it's a unique part of my personality and I wouldn't be who I am without it.